Welcome to ITIL Practices Part 3 module. By the end of this module, you'll be able to explain the continual improvement practice in detail. Now let's turn to the remaining practices. The syllabus requires that for these 7 practices, in addition to recalling the purpose, you are able to explain them in more detail. The first practice we will consider is continual improvement. By now, you will have realized that a commitment to continual improvement underpins the entire ITIL philosophy. It is a thread that runs through all levels of the ITIL approach. It is described as one of the fundamental components of the service value system, one of the major activity areas in the service value chain, and here as one of the 34 ITIL management practices. In the same way, a commitment to and practice of continual improvement must become a part of the culture of any organization seeking to adopt and adapt an ITIL approach. What would this look like? At the highest levels of such an organization, there would be genuine and visible management commitment to the practice of continual improvement. Managers would walk the walk as well as talking the talk, modeling the behaviors expected of the rest of the organization, and encouraging, recognizing, celebrating, and rewarding commitment to continual improvement. Within such an organization, there would probably be at least a small team dedicated to promoting, leading, and coordinating continual improvement efforts. But there would also be a recognition across the organization that continual improvement is everybody's responsibility. This would be reflected in individual job descriptions, objectives, and incentives. The same commitment would be expected from any third-party suppliers, and would also be reflected in their contracts and associated performance metrics. Let's consider the detail of the practice. ITIL states that the purpose of the continual improvement practice is to align the organization's practices and services with changing business needs through the ongoing identification and improvement of services, service components, practices, or any element involved in the efficient and effective management of products or services. Put another way, this says that through identifying improvement opportunities and implementing them, continual improvement will ensure that the things the organization does, that is, the practices, and the products and services that the organization offers, continue to meet business needs as they change over time. The point here is that standing still is not an option. If an organization fails to improve, then, in effect, it is going backwards because requirements and expectations change. And if the organization is not responding to these changes, it is likely that the competition will be. The other interesting thing about the purpose statement is the scope that it gives to continual improvement. Services, service components, practices, or any other element involved in the management of products and services. Effectively, anything within the service value system across all 4 dimensions potentially can be improved, and therefore, everything within the SVS is in scope. Various approaches to continual improvement have been defined. Lean, Agile, and DevOps, for example, all have approaches and perspectives which are helpful. ITIL offers the continual improvement model, which we will look at in more detail in the following slides. However, ITIL recommends that organizations should not try to formally commit to too many different approaches. At the same time, fixing on one approach is unlikely to meet all change requirements, so it is generally a good idea to select a few key methods that are appropriate to the types of improvements the organization typically handles. In this way, teams can and will develop expertise in those methods and successfully manage a greater amount of change at a quicker rate. That does not mean, however, that the organization should not be open to trying new approaches when they come along. The ITIL continual improvement model provides organizations with a structured approach to implementing improvements. It is not meant to be a rigid framework. Although it can be used as a workflow, its steps do not necessarily need to be followed in a strictly linear fashion in all situations. It should be applied with common sense, logic, and a focus on the guiding principles. Let's walk through the model. Step 1. What is the vision? For most organizations, finding things that could be improved is not usually a challenge. There will be any number of options an organization could pursue in order to increase customer satisfaction, enhance the quality of their products and services, or improve the utilization and performance of their assets. The real challenge is picking the right things to do and doing them successfully. The key guiding principle at work in this step is focus on value, making sure that of all the things an organization could choose to improve, they are selected and prioritized based on value. A high-level vision for the planned improvement needs to be created that validates the improvement initiative by demonstrating how it supports the achievement of the organization's goals and objectives. This provides context for all subsequent decisions that will be made during the project and ensures that each individual action is linked to the organization's vision for the future. Improvement means change, and change can be uncomfortable. Those impacted by the change need to clearly understand what is changing and why. The organization's visions and objectives, therefore, need to be translated for each specific business unit, department, team, and/or individual, so that the context, objectives, and boundaries for any improvement initiative are understood. The work within this step ensures that the high-level direction and expected value of the improvement is understood and agreed before any further action is taken. Step 2. Where are we now? As mentioned earlier in the course when discussing the guiding principle, start where you are, knowing where you are is essential before you can plan how you're going to get to where you want to be. Therefore, a key element to this step is to perform an assessment of the current state of the target improvement area. This provides a true understanding of the current situation, including the issues, strengths, and weaknesses. Importantly, it also provides an objective baseline measurement against which any improvements can be measured and demonstrated. Step 3. Where do we want to be? Based on the results of the first two steps, a gap analysis can now be performed to evaluate the scope and nature of the distance to be travelled from the starting point to the achievement of the initiative's vision. The gap analysis may reveal many individual improvement opportunities, each of which has to be evaluated and prioritised. Not all opportunities will necessarily be actioned. For those that are, the target state must be defined with clear objectives and measurable targets and key performance indicators. The targets should be SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. It is important to note that the vision may be aspirational. Each improvement will move the organization towards it, but the vision may never be fully achieved. Step 4. How do we get there? Now that the start and end points of the improvement journey have been defined, a specific route can be agreed. For a small initiative, this may be accomplished easily and quickly in a single step. A large improvement affecting a wide range of stakeholders may involve much more complex project planning and management. Where appropriate, planning should be guided by the principle progress iteratively with feedback, and break down large initiatives into smaller, more manageable steps. Each iteration moves the improvement forward while offering the opportunity to check progress, re-evaluate the approach, and change direction if necessary. Step 5. Take action. In this step, the plan for the improvement is acted upon. Even though the plan created at Step 4 may be clear and well documented, it is important to be responsive to changing circumstances during this step. Achieving the desired result is always more important than sticking rigidly to the plan. There needs to be continual focus on measuring progress towards the vision and managing risks, as well as ensuring visibility and overall awareness of the initiative. The guiding principle of collaborate and promote visibility is particularly relevant here. The completion of this step results in the establishment of the new current state. Step 6. Did we get there? This step involves confirming that the improvement initiative has resulted in the expected results and benefits. It is surprising that this step might ever be overlooked, but often it is. The change is implemented and the focus of attention shifts to the next project. This should be avoided at all costs. The output from this step is used in the next step to demonstrate to stakeholders whether the desired outcomes were actually achieved or not, and also to learn any lessons that will benefit future initiatives. One of the problems is that there is often a time lag between the implementation of the changes and the realization of the expected benefits. It may be weeks or even months before sufficient data has been gathered to demonstrate whether or not the benefits have been fully achieved. This needs to be considered in the improvement plan and sufficient time allocated to allow for checking that the measures defined in Step 3 have been achieved and that the desired benefits are being enjoyed. Of course, the answer to this question might be no, in which case a decision has to be made about whether additional actions should be taken, which, effectively, would trigger another iteration of the CI model. Alternatively, the organisation might decide to accept the improvements that have been delivered and close the initiative. Step 7. How do we keep the momentum going? If the answer to "did we get there" is yes, the focus can now shift to marketing these successes and reinforcing any new methods introduced. This is to ensure that the progress made will not be lost, and to build support and momentum for the next round of improvements. As we saw earlier in the module, a commitment to continual improvement must become part of the culture of any organisation seeking to adopt and adapt an ITIL approach. Ensuring that stakeholders see the good results of an improvement initiative also reinforces their understanding of and enthusiasm for the practice of continual improvement. Of course, stakeholders also need to be informed if the expected results of the improvement were not achieved. In this case, they need to be confident that the reasons for the failure are understood and lessons have been learned to reduce the risk of future failure. To recap, the ITIL continual improvement model provides a structured but flexible approach to implementing improvements. It is not meant to be a rigid framework, and organizations should adapt it to their own specific needs. The first step, what is the vision, ensures that any improvement effort is focused on customer value and is linked to the organizational vision. The next 5 steps, where are we now, where do we want to be, how do we get there, take action, and did we get there, are concerned with mapping and completing the improvement journey successfully. The final step, how do we keep the momentum going, transforms this activity from being a one-off improvement project to being a single cycle in the organization's continual search for service excellence. To conclude this session, let's briefly consider the major activities of the continual improvement practice. These include the development of improvement-related methods and techniques, encouraging and coordinating the practice of continual improvement across the organization, securing time and budget for continual improvement and making business cases for improvement action, identifying and logging improvement opportunities in a continual improvement register, assessing and prioritizing improvement opportunities, planning and implementing improvements, and measuring, evaluating, and celebrating improvement results. The Continual Improvement Register, or CIR, is a database or structured document where all improvement opportunities are logged. There can be more than one CIR in an organization. For example, a large organization may have local CIRs for different regions, or may choose to have separate CIRs for strategic customers. The important thing is that all opportunities are captured in the right place, where they are visible to all stakeholders with a legitimate interest, and that, once logged, all opportunities are evaluated, prioritized, and appropriately acted upon. The fact that an opportunity is logged in the CIR does not necessarily mean that it will be done, but it does mean that it will not be forgotten. Opportunities in the CIR should be regularly reprioritized. For example, as new opportunities are identified and added, the priority of existing opportunities may change.